Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission, as always, is to just cut through all the noise, all the headlines, and really deliver the essential insight.
hmm
And today, we are taking a really dense stack of documents. We're talking legal filings, institutional schedules, judicial recommendations, and we're doing a deep dive into the very specific documented reality that Sean Diddy Combs is now facing.
That's right.
We want to move way past the familiar story to understand the cold, hard mechanics of what his immediate future actually looks like.
And that's the key here, right? We're focusing strictly on the factual details, the systems that now, completely govern his life.
Exactly.
It's about contrasting his past, which was a life of, almost unbelievable opulence, with the immediate and frankly anonymous reality of the federal prison system.
Anonymous is the word.
But maybe, the most critical piece we're going to unpack is the technical side of his ongoing legal fight. There's this high-stakes, accelerated legal process running on a timeline that's completely separate from his daily routine in prison.
And that tension is fascinating.
It really is.
The documentation we've managed to compile gives us this incredibly precise, almost minute-by-minute look at his transition. We have the specifics of the facility he's in, that's Federal Correctional Institution Fort Dix.
We have his new inmate number.
We have his new inmate designation, the exact formulas that are governing his projected release date, and even his specific judicial recommendations that could act as, leverage points for his legal team.
And you mentioned this earlier, but we even have the meal schedules for major holidays.
Yeah, which gives us a really visceral contrast.
It does. So the mission for you, our listener, is really to grasp this whole institutional framework. We want you to understand exactly how a complex federal sentence gets calculated.
And how it can be changed.
And how it can be changed through things like programmatic participation. We also really need to connect the dots between that slow, grinding institutional clock day in, day out, and the urgent, fast-moving legal clock that could, potentially just dismantle his entire sentence years before he's scheduled to get out.
So we're moving beyond the what happened and into the what happens next specifically.
That's nice.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The first thing we really have to establish is just the stark, non-negotiable facts of his new reality. This is an immediate seismic shift in his entire identity and his environment.
It's a total reset.
So where is he? And, what's the designation that replaces this global celebrity brand he's built for decades?
The location is the Federal Correctional Institution Fort Dix, usually just called FCI Fort Dix, and it's in New Jersey. He was formally sentenced and then transferred there on October 30th.
And we should probably talk about what kind of facility that is, because federal prison can mean a lot of different things.
That's a great point. It's really important to understand the facility type. FCI Fort Dix is designated as a low-security federal correctional institution.
Low security. What does that actually translate to day to day?
So it means it's typically a campus-style setting. You'll have double-fenced perimeters, with razor wire, but the general population is made up of inmates who are considered a lower security risk than who you'd find in, say, a medium or a high-security penitentiary.
So that context, that low security label is really crucial for you to understand because it defines daily life inside. It would suggest, more access to programming, maybe educational facilities?
Exactly. More communal living spaces compared to a place that's, a strict maximum security lockdown where you're in a cell 23 hours a day.
But even with that relatively lower security, the identity transformation is total.
Oh, absolutely. It doesn't matter what the security level of the facility is. The system is designed to erase your previous status.
And it does that with a number.
It does that with a number. His new identity, which is what dictates every meal he eats, every movement he makes, every interaction he has, is now inmate #374520054. That numerical designation is the ultimate symbol of institutional anonymity. It completely replaces the context of a life that was defined by bespoke luxury, by personal chefs, by being in control of everything.
In a life defined by family, especially around the holidays. He has 7 children, and he's known for hosting these incredibly lavish celebrations.
And all of that is gone. That contrast is, it's the necessary backdrop for understanding this next phase of his life. He is missing those holidays.
So now let's drill down into the hard logistics of the sentence and the timeline, because this is all detailed in the sources we have. The sentence he received was a 50-month federal prison sentence.
50 months. And this is where we really need to get into the technical specifications for you. The sources we have project his release date as May 8, 2028.
Okay, so May 2028. Now, if you do the simple math from his transfer date, which was October 30th, 2025, 50 months would actually take him well into 2029.
Right.
So why is the official date May of 2028? There's a discrepancy there.
And that discrepancy needs immediate explanation because it's not a typo. It reflects the credit that he was already due before he even set foot in Fort Dix.
Okay, so he's getting credit for time served.
Precisely. You have to integrate this critical context. Combs had already spent about a year, roughly 12 months in custody before he was sentenced in October.
While the trial was proceeding.
Exactly. That full year is credited against the 50-month total. So he's starting with a balance of 38 months remaining as of his transfer date.
38 months. But even that doesn't perfectly land you on May 8, 2028. There's still another factor at play here.
There is. And to get to that specific date, you have to factor in the institutional incentives that are available to pretty much every federal inmate. This brings us to the standard credit for good behavior.
So that May 2028 date is the official projection after they've already accounted for his time served and the standard good behavior credit.
Yes, and this is where the technical detail is so essential. In the federal system, for any sentence that's over 1 year, inmates are generally eligible for something called good conduct time, or GCT.
Now, there's a specific formula for that, right? It's not just arbitrary.
Not at all. It's very specific. The calculation is 54 days of credit for every year of the sentence that was imposed.
54 days per year. Okay, that's the exact formula our listeners need to keep in mind.
Correct. So you have to calculate that based on the full 50-month sentence, not the 38 months he has left. So 50 months is just over 4 years, right? 4 years and 2 months.
Right.
So when you calculate 54 days times roughly 4.16 years, it comes out to a reduction of about 7.5 months.
So you take the 38 months he has left, you subtract that prospective GCT of 7.5 months, and that's how you land squarely in that May 2028 timeframe.
Exactly. This shows you that the projected release date isn't just some vague estimate. It's a mechanical application of federal sentencing rules and formulas. It's all just math.
But here's where it gets really, really interesting. Because that May 2028 date is just the baseline. We have a second and maybe even more potent factor in these sources that could significantly shift that release date even further forward.
And that would be the recommendation.
The recommendation from U.S. District Judge Arun Subramanian, who suggested that Combs participate in the Residential Drug Abuse Program, or RDAP, which is available at FCI Fort Dix.
This is a massive lever. I mean, it's probably the most powerful tool an inmate has to reduce their sentence from the inside.
So a judicial recommendation for RDAP, this isn't just a casual suggestion. This is a deliberate action from the judge that turns what is normally a procedural option into a very highly incentivized path toward an earlier release.
It is. This is where we need to do a true deep dive into the specific mechanics of RDAP. What is it, and why does it carry so much weight?
Let's define that. Why does this program, which is centered on drug abuse treatment, have such a profound impact on sentence reduction in the federal system?
Well, RDAP isn't just another class or meeting you attend. It's a specialized, very intensive residential treatment program that's offered by the Bureau of Prisons. It's designed to be therapeutic, of course, but it is also structurally and legally linked to sentence reduction.
So there's a direct quid pro quo. You complete the program, you get time off.
That's the deal. But eligibility is the first major hurdle. The inmate has to have a documented substance abuse disorder, which has to be verified by the BOP.
And the fact that Judge Subramanian specifically recommended it suggests that the need for this program was established somewhere during the legal process, either pre-trial or in the sentencing report.
It strongly suggests that, yes, the judge is essentially flagging him for the BOP and saying, this inmate is a prime candidate for this program.
So if he's deemed eligible and he chooses to participate, because it is a choice, what does the program itself look like?
It's very intensive. It typically lasts 9 months, and you're housed in a dedicated unit separate from the general population with other inmates who are also in the program.
So it's a therapeutic community model.
Exactly. It requires high compliance, full participation in group therapy, individual counseling, the whole works. Successfully completing that 9-month residential portion of the program is the absolute key to unlocking the maximum sentence reduction that's available under this statute.
Okay, so the big question. What is the maximum impact that successful completion can have on that May 2028 release date?
And this is the most crucial part for you to understand. Successful completion of RDAP typically qualifies an inmate for up to a full 12-month reduction in their overall sentence.
A full year.
A full year. So when you're looking at a 50-month sentence to begin with, securing an entire 12-month reduction is, well, it's transformational. It changes everything.
So let's do the math again. If we combine the good conduct time reduction, which we said was about 7.5 months, with the full 12-month RDAP reduction.
You're looking at a total potential reduction of nearly 20 months off the original 50-month sentence. Precisely. That means if he successfully completes RDAP and earns all his good conduct time, his effective sentence would drop from 50 months down to approximately 30 months served, and that includes the year he already did pre-sentence.
So a 1-year reduction alone would move his projected release date from May of 2028 all the way into mid-2027.
Potentially, yes. It moves the goalposts in a really significant way. The judge's recommendation essentially provides him with a clear roadmap.
It reframes the whole sentence. It's not just a duration of time to be endured, but it becomes a series of structured therapeutic and compliance requirements that, if he meets them, will significantly shorten his time behind the fence.
And this creates a really unique institutional psychology. For a high-profile inmate like him, all the control over his environment is gone. He can't decide what to eat, when to wake up.
Right.
But the control over his own fate, over his timeline, is now highly leveraged by his compliance with these structured programs. So the decision to commit to RDAP, which is rigorous and very demanding, it becomes the single most influential variable that he controls regarding his own liberty.
It's a high-reward choice, and it's one that was essentially teed up for him by the court's guidance.
Absolutely. And for the Bureau of Prisons at FCI Fort Dix, that recommendation from the sentencing judge immediately establishes a rehabilitative trajectory for inmate #37452-054. It layers the standard institutional structure with this complex, high-stakes administrative path toward an early release.
Okay, so we've established the numbers, the formulas, the big picture timeline.
Now let's pivot. And not abruptly, but reflectively. We've been talking about the clock, the months and years being counted down. But what is the actual experience of the day like?
Right.
The sources we have give us this window into the most visceral, almost illustrative detail, the reality of spending major holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas on the inside.
And this isn't just about reciting a menu.
Not at all. This is an illustration of the profound standardization that completely replaces personal opulence. It's the ultimate erasure of luxury.
And as the sources emphasize, he's missing the ability to host those lavish, custom-catered events for his 7 children. His life is now governed by an institutional clock, which starts early and runs with absolute rigidity.
So let's start with Thanksgiving. Let's detail how the meal schedule itself reflects that institutional control.
The day begins with that highly predictable, monotonous institutional rhythm. Breakfast is served around 6:30 a.m.
6:30.
And this meal is designed purely for utilitarian consistency. There's no comfort here, no sense of festivity.
The menu is a perfect example of that standardization. It's bananas, Bran Flakes, and whole wheat bread.
That's it.
That's it. It's accompanied by skim milk and the little standardized condiments. You get 2 jelly packets and a margarine spread. The simplicity just speaks volumes.
There is no special holiday breakfast.
No. The system demands consistency first, last, and always. That 6:30 a.m. routine dictates the start of the day, and it completely overrides any sense of a holiday, sleeping in.
And the most important meal of the day, the one with the heavy traditional holiday fare, it's served far earlier than any typical family would have dinner.
Oh, absolutely. The main meal of the day, the closest thing they have to a holiday feast, is served midday. We're talking between roughly 11 a.m. and 12 p.m.
So lunch is the big meal.
Lunch is dinner.
Yeah.
And that early timing is crucial for you to understand. Correctional facilities structure their entire day around security and inmate counts. Getting the main distribution of hot food done during the day shift just minimizes risk, and it simplifies the logistics for the staff.
Let's focus on that lunch menu then. This is where the institution at least makes an attempt to provide a sense of holiday fare while still relying on mass production.
The main course choices really reflect that institutional efficiency. Inmates are offered either roasted turkey core or our soy chicken and vegetables.
So you get a choice.
You get a binary choice, and that's fascinating. It provides a perception of choice. You can have the meat or the vegetarian alternative, but it ensures the kitchen is only dealing with 2 high-volume entrees. It maintains predictability in ordering, in preparation, in everything.
And the traditional sides are there to at least lend that holiday flavor profile. You've got cornbread and dressing, baked sweet potato, mashed potatoes, corn, and chicken gravy.
Right. They offer all the flavor cues that we associate with the holiday, but you have to remember this is food that's served in a loud communal dining hall under strict supervision, and it's distributed in very precise, measured portions.
No seconds.
No seconds. And the meal culminates with another choice. You can have a piece of fruit or a holiday dessert. Again, it provides a small, managed moment of personal preference in an environment where control is otherwise completely absent.
But that holiday feeling, such as it is, it ends pretty abruptly. The evening meal, which is served around 4:30 p.m., is a really stark reminder of the institution's operational necessity.
4:30 in the afternoon. And that dinner is purely functional. It's designed to be low effort, low mess, something that can be served quickly before the evening head count and the lock-in for the night.
And the options are simple.
Incredibly simple. The main course options are a deli meat and sliced cheese sandwich or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. It is the ultimate demotion from a world of custom-catered meals to the most basic, standardized institutional fare imaginable.
The entire structure, that early breakfast, the midday feast, and then the simple early sandwich dinner, it just reinforces the complete lack of personal autonomy.
It does. The identity of inmate #374-52054 is defined by his adherence to this rigid, predictable, and frankly monotonous clock.
So that's Thanksgiving. Now, moving to the second major holiday, Christmas, the documents we have really just reinforce this concept of institutional consistency over any kind of personalized celebration.
Yeah, you're not seeing a complete overhaul of the menu or the schedule. The operational demands of a federal institution dictate that these protocols remain highly, highly standardized.
Efficiency is king.
It is. The breakfast and the dinner menus for Christmas are essentially identical to Thanksgiving. The only major change occurs, again, in that midday lunch meal. It's a minimal variation just to acknowledge that the date on the calendar has changed.
And the Christmas lunch option substitutes the Thanksgiving turkey and soy chicken with baked Cornish hen.
Right. It's another form of poultry, a slightly different offering, but it maintains the core structure of the meal. It's something they can order in bulk and prepare in the same way.
And this tells us so much about resource management in these facilities.
It does, because the sides, the cornbread, the potatoes, the gravy, all of that remains exactly the same as Thanksgiving. By standardizing the side dishes, the BOP minimizes its supply chain complexity, it controls costs, and it ensures nutritional consistency across its entire population.
The system prioritizes efficiency and control over any sense of variation or festive spirit.
It's a profound psychological illustration when you think about it. For someone who, for decades, controlled the very definition of luxury, they're now experiencing a life where every single aspect, from the time of their meal to the type of bread they receive, is standardized and completely unchangeable.
The entire focus shifts from consumption and enjoyment to just compliance.
Exactly.
So now we shift. We shift from the institutional clock ticking away at FCI Fort Dix to the highly accelerated legal clock that's running in the Southern District of New York courts. And these two clocks are running in parallel, and they are defining the next few years for him.
It's a dual reality.
It is. So first we had to establish the legal context that resulted in this 50-month sentence.
Right. So the trial, after weeks of testimony, resulted in the jury finding him guilty on 2 specific counts. Both of those counts were related to transporting individuals for the purpose of prostitution.
And that's the legal foundation upon which the 50-month sentence was built.
That's right.
But this is where a crucial legal distinction comes into play. And it's a detail that you really have to appreciate to understand the full picture. The verdict was split. The acquittal on the more severe charges is critical context.
Oh, it is absolutely critical. The documents confirm that Combs was cleared of the most severe accusations that were brought against him, specifically sex trafficking and racketeering.
And we should be clear, we are only reporting on the judicial outcome here.
Solely on the outcome, but the implication of that acquittal cannot be overstated.
Because those charges, sex trafficking and racketeering, those carried potential life sentences. A conviction on even one of those would have radically, completely altered the outcome here.
That is the entire story of the trial's outcome. The defense team successfully created enough reasonable doubt in the minds of the jury to clear their client of those life sentence charges. So the 50-month sentence, while it's obviously very serious, it represents a successful defense strategy when you compare it to the maximum possible exposure he was facing.
And that distinction between the counts he was convicted of, transporting individuals, and the counts he was acquitted of, trafficking and racketeering, it really highlights the difference in the burden of proof that's required for each type of offense.
And the complexity of the evidence that must have been presented. The jury drew a very fine line.
Given that outcome, the legal maneuver his team initiated immediately after showed their absolute commitment to challenging what was left of that conviction.
There was zero pause. I mean, none. His legal team immediately filed a 2-page notice signaling their intent to appeal. They filed it on Monday, October 20th, right after the verdict came down.
So this is the first shot across the bow. It's the first step in a strategy that is designed to challenge the very legal foundation of his current incarceration.
It is, and this appeal didn't just move forward through the normal, slow channels. It was aggressively fast-tracked.
And we need to detail this timeline, really emphasizing that word, expedited.
This was a major procedural win for the defense team. On November 3rd, their request for an expedited appeal was granted by a U.S. Circuit Court judge, Beth Robinson.
Okay, so let's talk mechanics. What does expedited actually mean in this context?
Well, a standard appeal in the federal system, especially one that involves a conviction coming out of a high-profile district like the Southern District of New York, it can typically take 18 to 24 months just to get to the point of oral arguments.
A year and a half to 2 years.
At least. So expedited means shattering that standard timeline. It's jumping the queue.
And what does that suggest? I mean, why would the court grant that? What does it say about the concerns of the legal team and maybe the court's recognition of the case's complexity?
An expedited status signals that the court believes there are compelling reasons to hear this case sooner rather than later. In this instance, the fact that the defendant is currently incarcerated is a big one.
Yeah.
And the potential for complex questions of law surrounding that split verdict likely also drove the decision. The legal team is basically arguing that every single day their client spends incarcerated under this sentence is potentially a day that is unjustly served, and therefore it demands urgency from the court.
And the sources we have provide a specific next milestone for this highly accelerated process.
They do. The critical date to watch is the scheduling of oral arguments. Those are set to be heard in April 2026.
April 2026.
Oh.
And that date is what ties the legal volatility directly back to the institutional certainty of his life at FCI Fort Dix.
Let's look at that intersection of the two clocks. He entered custody in late October 2025. By April 2026, that's roughly 6 months into his physical incarceration at Fort Dix.
Just 6 months.
The legal challenge to his conviction will be actively heard by a panel of appellate judges.
That is an incredibly compressed timeline. So the entire future of his remaining sentence, those 38 months or potentially 30 months if he gets into RDAP, all of that will be decided before he's even served a full year of the sentence post-trial.
Think about that. If the appeal is successful, the conviction could be overturned entirely. The sentence could be vacated, or a new trial could be ordered. Any of those outcomes would render his physical sentence at FCI Fort Dix immediately obsolete.
This creates this immense volatility for inmate. Hashtag 374-52054. He's down there following all the institutional rules, the 6:30 a.m. breakfast, participating in programs, doing his job, while simultaneously knowing that in just a few months, a circuit court panel will determine whether any of those rules even matter for his future.
That April 2026 date acts as the primary checkpoint for him. It supersedes everything else, even the powerful incentives provided by the BOP.
It's bigger than RDAP.
Much bigger. While the RDAP program offers him a path to shave off 12 months from his sentence, the appeal offers him a path to shaving off the entire sentence.
And the fact that the court granted the expedition, it really underscores the seriousness with which they were approaching this review of the verdict.
It does. It sets up this constant high-stakes countdown that's running in direct opposition to the slow, grinding clock of institutional standardization.
It also puts that judicial recommendation for RDAP into a really interesting light, doesn't it? If the appeal fails in April 2026, then the RDAP program immediately shifts from being a secondary option
to becoming the single most vital strategy for minimizing his time. It becomes Plan A overnight.
That is the perfect way to synthesize it. The legal strategy is the moonshot. It's aiming for a complete reversal. But the correctional strategy, that RDAP recommendation, is the essential backup plan. It ensures that no time is wasted in securing the maximum possible reduction should the appeal fail.
His legal team is fighting on two fronts. One is a high-speed, high-stakes legal challenge. The other is a calculated, methodical path of institutional compliance.
So after all of this, what does it all mean for you, the informed listener? We've really dissected the two governing realities that are facing Sean Diddy Combs right now. The first is that highly detailed, predictable, and completely standardized institutional existence at FCI Fort Dix. It's a world defined by his inmate number, by the 54 Ds per year good conduct time formula, and by the strict adherence to protocols like, Bran Flakes for breakfast.
And that world has a clear finish line, a baseline projected physical release date of May 8, 2028.
Right, with the potential for that date to be accelerated by nearly a full year through his participation in that intensive RDAP program.
And the second reality is the high-velocity legal challenge running alongside it. We've established that critical split verdict. He was found guilty on 2 counts, but he was successfully cleared of those life sentence-carrying charges of trafficking and racketeering.
Which was followed by an aggressive, fast-tracked appeal granted by the Circuit Court, setting the stage for oral arguments in April of 2026.
And that day creates immense short-term uncertainty that clashes directly with the institutional need for stability, routine, and long-term planning.
We've really seen a clear snapshot of how a high-profile federal sentence operates. It's this complex intersection of time-served credit, specific formulas for conduct reduction, proactive judicial guidance toward rehabilitation.
And an actively engaged, high-speed legal effort to challenge the entire foundation of the verdict itself.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
And as you synthesize all this information, consider this final thought on the intersection of these competing timelines. How might the outcome of those oral arguments, scheduled for April 2026, and remember, that's occurring less than 6 months after his transfer to Fort Dix, how might that outcome impact the inmate population and the institutional staff around him?
That's a great question.
If the appeal were successful and the sentence was suddenly vacated, it would be a major disruption to the BOP's investment in inmate, #37452-054. But if it fails, how quickly must the institution then scramble to enroll him in that demanding 9-month RDAP program to honor the judge's recommendation and still maximize the incentive window for his remaining sentence? The legal uncertainty creates operational pressure no matter what the verdict is.